Hi everyone and welcome back. While a lot of greyhounds live in a kennel while waiting to be adopted, some do spend time in a foster home. And in this video, I'm going to take a look at some of the questions you might want to ask yourself and the rescue organisation if you are thinking of becoming a foster carer yourself. I've fostered a fair few greyhounds over the years and I've made a separate video introducing you to them. The link will be in the description and it will give you a good idea of some of the reasons dogs might need to be in a foster home rather than a kennel while they wait for their forever home. My intention with this video is not to put you off from fostering, as of course with rescues struggling for kennel spaces for homeless dogs, foster carers can be a really important way to help save a dog or to rehabilitate a dog that's struggling that could not otherwise be helped. And I hope rather than putting you off, this video will help you to go into fostering with your eyes open and choose a rescue to support that will support you back. In the light of that, the first question I think you need to ask yourself is, what sort of rescue do I want to volunteer for? Some rescues operate primarily on a foster basis, with the majority of their dogs in foster care. And people who foster for those organisations are often taking in dogs who are a completely unknown quantity, perhaps from a dog pound with no history. So they're starting from scratch with every dog. If they do it this way, however, then the chances are they have a very good setup because they are used to fostering. They've got an established system that works for fostering and looking after and supporting their foster carers. And I can promise you that is not to be sneezed at. Other rescues will only foster a few dogs, those who are seen to be special needs of some sort of special case, and perhaps being in kennels would be too difficult for them. And those are the sort of dogs I fostered in the past that I talk about in the video linked in the description. So this could include dogs who have been returned from a home, perhaps from no fault of their own. So those could be quite easy dogs to take on because they'll be used to home life, they understand about toilet training, and they're used to being a pet. Maggie, what are you doing, sweetie? It might be that they have no known issues, but they could also have issues such as separation anxiety, or they could have things like a bite history. So there could be some issues that you will need to work on with them. Thank you. Yes, that was a good chat.
Hello! We at Gandipool Television Broadcasting Service would like to apologise for the break in transmission. Apparently, some wizard is out there playing with an orange squeaky ball, and everybody, apart from Maggie, has decided to go and play with it.
So a key consideration for you is, what sort of dog could you help by becoming a foster carer? Are there particular behavioural issues that you have experience of? Might you be able to help dogs with problems? Or could you assess dogs to help identify what sort of home would be more suitable for them? Each dog that comes to live with you will go through some sort of transition. Even if they've been surrendered from a loving home for no fault of their own, they are still having to cope with the change in their circumstances. And while some may take this in their stride, others can struggle. And repeatedly going through that initial period of settling in for a newly adopted dog over and over again can really take its toll on you. It might be you become quite a dab hand at it and can do it with no problem. For others, it can be quite difficult to have to keep going through that. Once you're clear in your mind about the kind of dog you feel you could foster, there are some things to consider with deciding which rescue you're going to foster for to offer your services to. You might already be a volunteer for one and have a good understanding of how their foster process works. And of course, this can be a very good way to go. But if that's not the case, that you're looking for a rescue to foster for, then what do you need to find out about them before you commit yourself? Most will say that they will offer full support. But what does that actually mean? There are quite a few things you might need support with. If they provide food and other supplies, what is the system going to be for getting those things? Will you have to wait for them to order? Do you collect from their base? Do you order them and claim the money back? They will typically cover for essentials such as food or treats for training, but extras the chances are you're going to be paying for those yourself if you want to give those to the dog. For minor issues that don't require a vet, for routine procedures such as nail clipping or flea and worm treatment or first aid, will you need to organise this? Are they provided for you? Will they pay you back? If you pay, are you expected to pay for it yourself? Are you in a position to keep a stock of things you might need that you wouldn't otherwise use for your own dog? Or if you don't have a dog at all, can you afford to have a stock of things in hand that you might need for that dog? For example, recently with Gandalf, I had to spend about £80 on supplies that I needed for a situation because I couldn't get them quickly enough from the rescue. You're slacking in your duties. You are. Come on. Hop. That's a good chat. Yes. You going to sit down then? Yeah. That's a good boy. So as a minimum, it's helpful to have to hand things that would assist you with problems such as an upset tummy or a minor injury. And if you're close to the base of your rescue, perhaps you can pop along and see a volunteer who can advise you, especially if it's something you haven't had to deal with yourself before. Perhaps you can collect the supplies you need. If not, it can be quite difficult to get what you need in a timely manner. And what will happen regarding vet trips? You have to go to a particular vet where they have an account. If so, how far away is it? And how will you get there? If not, how will vet bills be paid? There's a good chance that you will need to get prior approval for vet trips. So ask how this is organised, about how long it will take. And it's also possible you might have to seek permission for treatment of a certain condition. This happened to me with Gandalf. It began as a skin tag, it grew into a sizable lump, and he just kept chewing at it. But I was told the cost of removal at our usual vets was too high, and was asked to take him to a vet that was probably 4 hours drive away, the other side of London, who would do it cheaper, which really wasn't very practical for me as a person living on my own with other dogs to consider at that time as well. However, the issue didn't go away, the lump kept growing, and I finally got approval to have it removed more recently after it started to ulcerate, as my new vet was able to offer a better price. But what this has meant is months and months of having to cope with the dog who was messing with this lump, and it affected his behaviour, it affected my peace of mind, trying to stop him chewing it, and all round it was extremely stressful. But I had no choice because I was fostering him. So they made the decisions based on price, but I had to deal with it on an emotional level. That was for a planned procedure. So what happens if there's an emergency? Can you go to any vet? Do you still have to go to their vet? Where will that be if that is the case? Do you have to wait to get approval for an emergency trip? What if the emergency is caused by an accident that they deem you responsible for allowing to happen? Will they still pay, or will they expect you to pay for that? It can be stressful to deal with an emergency at the best of times, so it's important to know upfront how this is going to work rather than having to deal with it under pressure at that moment. And of course, again, you're the one that will have to deal with the stress of that. They just look at the line on the spreadsheet later and look at the cost. If you don't go to an vet where there's an account, the chances are you will have to pay at the time. So you need to be able to stump up that much money and then claim it back. And it's also possible that there may be a limit on how much can be paid. So you, as well as being in a financial position to pay for it yourself before you get the money back, you also need to know how much can be spent. A lot of things have changed since I started fostering Gandalf, and initially I could collect what was needed from kennels, buy it and claim it back on expenses. The current arrangement is that I have to request items on Sunday for ordering the following Tuesday, so there is a delay of potentially a week or more, depending on order times and any queries, before things arrive. Now that's fine if the things can be planned, but life doesn't always happen that way. And there have been times where I've needed supplies such as for bandaging or upset tummy. Now, if I hadn't had stuff myself, I would have had a problem. So If they were to offer you some form of emergency care kit, that could be a real godsend to you in having the right things to hand just in case. And what about the emotional cost of fostering? It can be hard enough when it goes smoothly to welcome a whole series of dogs into your life and let them go again, however wonderful the home that they're going to. But what if you run into problems? Is there someone who will come and listen and take your concerns seriously? My recent experience with Gandalf surgery has highlighted this to me, because even when I told them I was finding it hard, I wasn't getting any sleep, it was affecting my mental health, and even when it escalated to the dog attacking me in the middle of the night, I got no response. They didn't even acknowledge that this was going on. They just responded to the parts of my messages that addressed the need for supplies. So I got no emotional support at all, or acknowledgement that there might need to be some change in how we were looking after things, because it wasn't working at that time for him in this house. So ask about the availability of someone to offer emotional support if you're struggling. Is there someone local who can pop round to offer advice, or even just an understanding shoulder for you to lean on? What will happen if the dog really needs to move out? Are you able to visit their base to get help? Will they come to you? What will happen if you feel you can't go on? We all hope it doesn't come to that, but we cannot rule that out. So it's important to be prepared. A friend of mine experienced this in a very, very unpleasant situation, which can only be described as an emergency, when a new dog badly attacked one of her existing dogs. Luckily, there were volunteers locally who could come round and help and take that dog away from her home. And we always hope that it never come to that. We never expect it's going to happen, but we really do need to know that the rescuers thought about how they will deal with emergencies for their foster carers. And this, I think, is where an organisation that does a lot of fostering can be a bonus, because the chances are they've seen it before, or they've thought about it, because they do so much of it. Think also about their position on vets bills. If it's one of your dogs that gets injured rather than their dog, are they going to pay for your dog to be looked after, or will you have to pay for that yourself? And if you're not insured, can you afford the cost of that? And then, of course, there is the psychological effect on your own dog that you have to consider too. I do realise that this video is perhaps coming across as quite negative, and I apologise for that. Despite everything I've shared with you, fostering can be extremely rewarding, and it is an amazing way to help greyhounds. I think my key message is to choose wisely. Be clear about what you can offer, and be very sure to explore the support that is offered to you. Do your research up front and ask a lot of questions before you step in and commit yourself. If you can get a recommendation from someone who's impartial, that is even better. If someone you know has fostered before for a local charity, ask about their experiences and talk to other volunteers before you commit. Well, I think chaos is ensuing out there, so I think that needs to be all for today. We'll be back again soon with more for you. Bye for now. What are they doing in there, young Flopper? They're doing a lot of shouting. Are you going to sit down now? Oh, yeah. Oh, what a good chat. Oh, no, you're just stretching. Hmm? They've shut up now. We're finished. They have. They're shut up now. We're finished. Look out for new videos every Monday. And why not subscribe so you don't miss out?